Maya Lindqvist had been on the job 3 weeks, and she had already learned that the worst part of working a gala at the Aldridge Grand was the half hour before doors when everyone in a headset was looking for someone to blame. So when Rhonda Pierce's voice cut across the lobby, sharp, syrupy, the voice she used for problems, Maya turned before she'd even decided to. Rhonda was a brisk white woman in her 40s, headset askew, clipboard against her chest like armor. The woman by the revolving door was black, small and steady, somewhere past 70, in a navy wool coat buttoned to the throat and flat black shoes polished to a soft shine. She held a single cream-colored card in both hands, the way you'd hold something that mattered. Behind her, the gold easel read 25 Years of the Promise Fund in script, with a photograph of a younger man in a white coat, smiling, a stethoscope around his neck. "Ma'am, I think you've come in the wrong door," Rhonda said, already steering with 2 fingers at the woman's elbow, not quite touching. "Staff entrance is around back, by the loading dock. They'll get you set up in the kitchen." "I have an invitation," the woman said. Her voice was quiet even. She held the card out. Rhonda didn't take it. "I'm sure you do, hon, but the seating's all assigned, and we can't have folks wandering in early. Fire code." She glanced past the woman's shoulder, already moving on to the next thing, and found Maya. "Maya, take her round to Delphine, would you? Tell her we're short 2 on plating." And then Rhonda was gone, weaving back toward the ballroom doors with her clipboard, leaving Maya standing in front of a stranger who hadn't moved. "This way," Maya said, because it was easier to say than anything else, and because 3 weeks in, she had not yet learned how to be the kind of person who said something different. The woman looked at her for a moment, not unkindly, just steadily, the way you'd look at someone you were deciding something about, and then she looked down at the card in her hands. "My son is speaking tonight," she said. "I'd like to wait somewhere I can hear him, if that's all right. I don't need a seat right away. I can stand." Maya glanced toward the kitchen corridor, then back at the ballroom doors, where the string quartet was tuning, and the first guests in tuxedos and long dresses were drifting in under the chandeliers. "It's just, miss," Pierce said. "I know what she said." Still that same even voice, not angry, not even surprised, which was somehow worse. "I've been mistaken for staff at finer places than this young lady. I won't make a fuss. I'll just stand here by the column, if nobody minds, and listen for my boy's name." She moved unhurried to the marble column just inside the ballroom doors, close enough to hear, out of the main flow of guests, and stood there with her clutch purse against her chest and the invitation card still in her hand, and waited. Maya stood frozen for a second. Then somebody's heel caught the back of her shoe and she had to step aside, and the moment closed over, the way moments do at a gala, and she went to find Delphine because that was the job. But she kept glancing back. The woman never moved. She didn't check her phone, because she didn't seem to have one. She didn't fidget. She stood very straight, in her good coat, near the column, and watched the room fill up around her, like she was used to being the only still thing in it. Guests streamed past her the whole time. Men in tuxedos laughing too loud, women in heels that clicked on the marble, a photographer crouching for angles, and not one of them looked at her twice. A waiter balancing a tray of canapes actually said, "Excuse me, ma'am," to get past, the way you'd say it to a piece of furniture, without breaking stride. Maya watched it happen 3 times, 4, and each time, something in her chest tightened a little further, though she could not have said exactly why, or what she thought she could do about it. 3 weeks into a job she very much needed. By 7:40, the ballroom was full. 300 guests, round tables in white and gold, a stage at the far end with a podium, and a screen looping photographs of young people in caps and gowns, decade after decade of them, smiling, holding diplomas, some of them now in scrubs or suits in newer photographs beside the older ones. "The Promise Fund," the screen read. 25 years, 112 students. Maya came back through with a tray of water glasses and found the woman still there, by the column, the crowd parting around her without seeing her, the way crowds do. "They're about to start the program," Maya said, before she could stop herself. "There's room at the back by the AV table. Nobody'll mind. You could sit." The woman smiled at her then, for the first time, small but real. "Thank you. I believe I will, if it's no trouble." Maya led her to a folding chair tucked behind the last row of tables, half in shadow, and the woman sat with her purse in her lap, and her invitation card still folded in her hand. And Maya, She didn't know why, sat down in the chair beside her, just for a minute, just until somebody needed her. Up close, Maya noticed the woman's hands, the knuckles a little swollen, the skin gone soft and creased the way it does after decades of hot water and bleach. And noticed, too, how carefully she held the card, like it had been folded and unfolded many times over, many years, and she'd learned exactly how to do it without tearing the crease. The lights dimmed. The Foundation's executive director, a tall man named Walter Combs, took the podium and talked for a few minutes about milestones and donor walls and the importance of community, the way executive directors do. Then he said the name of the evening speaker, and the room applauded, and the man from the photograph on the easel walked out under the lights. Dr. Theodore Calloway, a pediatric surgeon now, the program said, chief of his department, the fund's very first scholarship recipient, 25 years ago. He was in his late 40s. He had his mother's steadiness in the way he stood at the podium and waited for the applause to settle. 25 years ago, he said, I was 17 and I had one good suit, and I was sure I wasn't getting into medical school. Not because of my grades, but because of the math. My mother worked 2 jobs my whole life, cleaning houses during the day and the overnight shift at a commercial laundry on Fenwick Street, folding sheets for hotels just like this one, until 2 and 3 in the morning, 6 nights a week, for 30 years. There was no way to make the numbers work. I'd already decided I'd go to community college and figure it out from there. Beside Maya, the woman in the navy coat had gone very still. And then, Theo said, 3 weeks before decision letters came out, I got a call from a man I'd never heard of, from a fund I'd never heard of, telling me my tuition, all of it every year, was covered. No strings, no essay required after the first one, just covered. I asked him who'd done it. He said it was anonymous and that the donor's only request was that someday, if I could, I'd help someone else the same way. He paused. The room was very quiet. For 25 years, I have stood at this podium, at this gala, and thanked an anonymous donor. 112 of us have stood here and thanked an anonymous donor. And for 25 years, we all believed, that it was some businessman, some foundation, some name on a building somewhere. Because that's what you assume, isn't it? That kind of money, that kind of patience. 25 years of patience. Maya felt the woman beside her reach for her hand, not gripping it, just resting her fingers there, light as anything, the way you'd steady yourself against a railing. 6 weeks ago, Theo said, I finally got access to the fund's original founding documents because the board asked me to help update them for the anniversary, and I found the name on the very first deposit. The very first one, 26 years ago, for $412, which, if you do the math, is almost exactly 2 weeks of overnight pay at a commercial laundry on Fenwick Street, after rent. He looked down at the podium for a moment, and when he looked up, his eyes were bright. It was my mother, every overtime check, every double shift, for 30 years, going into an account I never knew existed, under a name she never told anyone. Because she said, and I quote the founding letter exactly, I don't want the boys and girls who get this to feel they owe a debt to a person, just to the next one in line. She has been in this room at this exact gala every single year for 25 years, sitting in the back, listening to me thank a stranger who was sitting 15 feet away. A murmur went through the crowd, the particular sound of 300 people, understanding something at the same moment. She's here tonight, Theo said, his voice catching for the first time. She always comes. Mama, would you stand up? For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Maya was on her feet, turning, reaching for the woman's arm, not to steer her this time, but because her legs had gone unsteady, just slightly, the way anyone's might. Maya looked at the program in her other hand, at the founding documents listed in small print on the back page, the name she hadn't thought to read until just now. Odessa May Calloway, founding benefactor. That's you, Maya said very quietly. Ma'am, that's you. That's me, Odessa said, and there was the smallest tremor in it now, the only one all night. The spotlight found her in the back row before Maya had even decided what to do, sweeping past the AV table and the folding chairs, and 300 people turned in their seats, and 300 people stood up, not all at once, but in a wave table by table, the way a held breath finally lets go. Theo came down off the stage himself, walking the length of the ballroom while his mother was still rising from her chair, and reached her before she'd taken 2 steps, and the room watched a surgeon who had saved more children than he could count hold his mother like he was 7 years old again. Near the front, Walter Combs had gone the color of the tablecloths. He found Rhonda Pierce in the crowd with a single look, and she met it, and understood, and did not try to disappear into the kitchen corridor fast enough. It didn't take long. After that, the way things don't, once a room has decided. Walter Combs apologized from the podium himself, formally, on behalf of the Aldrich Grand and the Foundation both, before the night was over. Not a mumbled aside, but a real one, naming what had happened plainly. That a founding benefactor of 25 years had been mistaken for kitchen staff and redirected to a service entrance, and that this would never happen again. He said it slowly enough that the room could absorb it, and when he was done, the applause that followed was different from the applause before. Quieter, and it lasted longer. Rhonda was placed on administrative review by the hotel's events director before the dessert course was cleared. Maya saw her once more that night, in the service corridor. She tried to send Odessa down, standing very still with her clipboard against her chest, the color gone out of her face. Nobody shouted at her. Nobody needed to. By the following week, the Aldrich Grand had a new policy taped inside every coordinator's binder. Every name on a guest list checked against the list itself, not against an assumption, before anyone was redirected anywhere. The Foundation's board, meeting the very next morning, voted unanimously and, without discussion, to rename the scholarship. By the time the 113th recipient was announced that spring, the letters they received would come from the Callaway Promise Fund. But none of that was what Maya remembered most afterward. What she remembered was the moment just before the spotlight found her. The small woman, in the navy coat, still holding her invitation card, looking up at her son's face with an expression that wasn't surprise at all. It was relief. 30 years of folding someone else's sheets, and she had never once needed anyone to know. She had only needed this one time for him to. Maya walked her to the front row herself, past the column, where Rhonda Pierce had tried to send her around back, and pulled out the chair, and Odessa Callaway sat down at last in the seat that had been hers all along, and stayed for every minute of the rest of the night, in plain sight, exactly where she belonged. Later, clearing glasses long after the last guests had gone, Maya found the cream-colored invitation card still sitting on the folding chair in the back row, where Odessa had set it down without thinking, the moment her son called her name. Maya picked it up and turned it over. On the back, in careful handwriting, someone, Odessa probably, years ago, before she ever stopped needing to carry it, had written 4 words, small, in pencil, almost worn away. Just to hear him. Maya slid the card into her apron pocket to return it in the morning, and did not mention to anyone that her eyes were wet.